There's the light. The sky shines at the top. And I said, I did have this dream. I was walking. I said, it reminded me of the vision that I had. This wasn't a vision, it was just a dream. I'm not sure exactly the total beliefs of the Achu Indians, but I do know that I was supposed to be there because the Achu said, when our people die, we see the light. Here I am, many miles away from Kansas City, and I'm looking for something in here. I find some of the answers in Auschwitz. I find some of the answers from Cristobal, the Achu Indian. So the light, the universal light, all of a sudden I'm regrouping and thinking, wait a minute, what's going on here? Well, from these experiences, what have I learned? Oh, by the way, back in church, we have free will. That's the way it is. Sometimes free will plays a part of it. Sometimes it doesn't. But I've learned not to blame God on things. Yeah, I get sad sometimes. But are you going to blame God? You have a person comes into a convenience store and shoots the clerk. Are you going to blame God? No. I'm going to blame the clerk for making the choice, the bad choice. Am I going to blame, in fact, a friend of mine, he lost a daughter from a drunk driver. So am I going to blame God for that? Am I going to blame the person who had free will and had the choice to drink and drive? You say, why doesn't God intervene? Sometimes God doesn't intervene. And these are a lot of questions which I don't know the answers to. I do know one thing, though, that God gives us in our lives people to help us get through this process. The key thing is, as we're going through grieving, we have to be astute and aware that these people are here to come and help us along. And the thing is that a lot of times we don't recognize that. I may never see anybody walk on water, but every day I see miracles. But a lot of miracles just pass me by. I'm so busy with phones ringing and fielding calls and taking care of problems and all this and that, instead of just taking the time and recognizing, is a small miracle any better or any less than someone walking on water? A miracle is a miracle. And what I found out is the Achu Indian Cristobal. Did God send him to me? Is he Christian? Is he not Christian? God sends people to us in many shapes and forms. And forget of their beliefs, whatever. The fact is that there's lessons to be learned and there's reasons. And at first I thought coincidence, because after Emily passed away, there's a lot of things that happened, and I thought that's coincidence. Let me tell you, these are not coincidences. A few people I'd like to talk about that have actually God has sent me. A friend of mine, he's over here, Robert Rajarte. He's been extremely instrumental when Emily died. I called him and said, can you meet me? And cancel all his plans. We've known each other for about 15 years, I'd say, 14 years. We're running buddies. We jog. We've been on a number of long marathons and a lot of stories. But Robert also had a son that passed away before Emily died in a car accident. So did God know what was going to happen prior to this many years ago with his incredible wisdom? Was there a reason why I hooked up with Robert many years ago? I don't know. I just take it for what it is. Let me just tell you one thing. In the mornings, we often run. We run at 5 in the morning. And I have found that after about an hour, that more words can be spoken in silence than verbally. Now, did you hear what I said? More words can be spoken in silence than verbally. You know, a lot of times when we go to funerals and we go to the people, we go to the line, and you hug them and say, I'm sorry, and all of this. I've realized that a lot of times that's not what people need. Because I didn't cause whatever happened. I'm sorry. I don't know why, when Laura talked about that young man that has throat cancer, I don't know why. And I'm not going to say why. God knows why. Am I going to question him? I'm going to have to believe in faith. That's where the line is drawn. But, so what I do now is I just go to the grieving people. I don't have to say it. I just give them a hug. And that is it. Because more words can be spoken in silence. There's another story, and I'm going to a little bit more time here, is that about 3 years ago, everybody knows that people know me, that I love Quick Trip Coffee. Before I run in the morning, I go and I get my cup of Quick Trip Coffee, and I know Dr. Pankey, maybe coffee is not good for you in the morning or whatever, but whatever. And one morning I saw this guy there, and he was talking about the loss of his son and cancer. I didn't know who he was, and I said, I introduced myself, and I said, my name's Paul, I lost a daughter, and I gave him my name and my number. I said, if you give me a call. Because we all belong to this club, and we don't want to belong to what we belong to, and that's just the nature of it. And so I pass it on. So the second quarter series that we had here, I spoke a little bit about our foundation, but his name is Gus Franklin. I don't see him here this evening, but he was here the second quarter of the series here. And Gus is actually a pastor of a local church here. And over the last 3 years, we have become friends. And we meet a couple times a week. The only thing is, we don't have a scheduled meeting. So you know, what's going on? You don't have a scheduled meeting. How do you meet Pastor Gus? Because when I go to Quick Trip at 72nd and Warnell, if it's in the morning, if I'm late for work, well, he's getting his coffee. I said, the other day, I said, Gus, do you work at Quick Trip here? This is crazy. But you know what? It's great too in the morning to get up and to share God's love in a silence way with my writing partner. And then get my coffee before I get to work. This is my second cup of coffee. And they have Pastor Gus. I mean, and we talk about things that, pastors, a lot of people think that pastors have the answers to everything and that they're God. They have this direct connection. Hello, God. Let me tell you, that's not the case. We have to seek out for ourselves. The ministers help us that way. They're not God. And we talk about this. One other quick person I've got to talk about. The first Christmas Eve, and Laura was talking about holidays. Man, I'll tell you, everybody does it differently. Christmas Eve, I let the staff go home early. And I stayed late, and I was feeling really sorry for myself. I was feeling really bad. We have in our business, every day we have a delivery from DHL. It's like Federal Express. And here it is, Christmas Eve. I'm right in the back in the office. I hear someone knocking on the door. And I thought, who's that? I walk up there, and it's this person named Mark Myers. I've known Mark for years, but I don't see him that often. And he's a self-employed delivery driver. And I said, Mark, you're not DHL. And so DHL today decided that they have so much going that they used him as a contractor to deliver what we have from our daily DHL. And prior to that afternoon,